Yo, we are back in BMX Streets, and for this video I wanted to cover all my settings that I currently have in the game. There's a few different things that you can adjust in this settings menu when you press the, I think it's the menu button, basically the one that's opposite the start button. I don't know what it's called anymore. So just going from top to bottom, audio stuff, that's for your own individual tastes. UI, I always have the trick display off. Menu render, I haven't really touched any of that stuff. Control haptics on. More graphic settings, etc. When it comes to slow motion, I prefer to have it off. I don't really ever like using it. I know like the old potato tends to use it sometimes. It's not really for me, so I just leave it off. Now the important stuff is here when it comes to physics. I have this on 1.1. It defaults to 1.0, which if you use row mod, or if you were used to it from before, I think it's 12.5, which would make it 13.5 now. I'm not sure if that's correct. But still, for the current physics menu, 1.1 is all you need. Flip axis, this has two settings. One is local, one is tangent. This is actually fairly important, because if we go over here, it's probably the best place to show it off. It allows you to do some of those sort of tricks. It's kind of hard to explain what it's doing exactly. But it kind of auto-completes a lot of flip things. I'm terrible at flares, but yeah, you'll notice it kind of spun me around. That's the setting you want on if you kind of want to do a lot of those sort of tricks. Okay, so I switched it to local, and it's actually doing a very similar thing. Like, it's actually completing the flips. So I'm not entirely sure if that's working or making any difference. Try again. Yeah, like that's actually like correcting things the same as tangent. So maybe give both a try, see which works for you. There may be a difference, or maybe somebody in the comments can mention what's actually going on with that. Because previously it was kind of awful for doing flares or any kind of flip and a spin sort of trick. I keep screwing that up every time. So yeah, that one might have to be a bit of a work in progress. When it comes to flip multiplier 1.1, spin multiplier 1.1, jump multiplier, I keep that the same because I don't want to be flying all over the place. Pump as well, you already get tons of speed. Mani mode, auto, nosy mode, auto. I've tried these on manual before, but they're very sensitive, especially if you're doing really like techie stuff that uses lots of manuals. It can kind of get in the way a bit because it will just throw you off. Skill, I think this is a meme, honestly. I don't know if it actually makes any difference. I set it to 100% and it's never really been an issue. And for vert assist, we want rotation assist on, especially if you're doing park stuff, because this is what basically sticks you to transition, especially if you're going around corners. It'll kind of help hone you in a little bit. So that previous setting is for doing flips while you're in the air. This is more transition related. You'll notice I've been guided a little bit, which is actually quite helpful. And I've also noticed for a lot of the street stuff I do, it's not really getting in the way so much anymore compared to what it used to. So leaving rotation assist on with correction strength at 5 is probably the best bet. So when it comes to ground assist, I've found this actually works pretty well right now. Again, doesn't get in the way too much, but it does help you hone in for like Smiths, Feebles, things like that. They used to be a pain. Now you're fine. You pretty reliably get into them, so I definitely recommend keeping it on. If you do have any trouble with any super technical things where you're getting thrown all over the place, then turn it off. But generally you want it on. Stance is goofy. I actually prefer regular, but at one point only goofy stance was in the game, and I kind of got used to doing everything that direction, so I've just stuck with it since. Tricking, always fire. You could leave it on, but sometimes it can get in the way with some tricks, like it triggers when you don't want it to. But it does allow you to do some very unique tricks. So it can be fun to play around with a bit. Maybe just leave it on temporarily to try an idea and then turn it off again afterwards. Master speed 1.1. I think that's about the right pace of having whips get around fairly quick without looking too crazy. Same for most tricks. One or two tricks will look a little bit weird. I think turn downs. Is it turn downs? They're quite quick. Yeah, like that. But again, that's down to taste. Just play around with it a bit. Fakey slider. I don't know why that's an option, actually. I guess some people just didn't like having this. Actually, thinking about it, does it actually work a bit better now? It used to be really twitchy and it'd just throw you off. But you do need to control it a little bit. Now, camera settings, it's probably best to just take a screenshot and try and copy this later on. I've bumped up up the FOV a little bit fisheye. I've made everything a bit closer to try and keep it, I don't know, kind of tight feeling all the time. Other settings, I did these a little while ago. Yaw curve ease in is the most important, I think, because there was a period where the game was really, it's really hard to describe, but when you turned, the camera had a bit of a delay to it. It kind of made it nauseating. Right now, I think it's a good balance of being close to get a good view of what's going on, but not too close. It's just sort of a good balance overall. It's actually different from that first video I did on this update. So this is kind of an updated one. It's a little bit closer. Posture, honestly, I don't really know if that makes a lot of difference. If you really, really want to change the way your rider looks for whatever reason, or you want to like make something really crazy looking, you could probably adjust a few of these. But for the most part, you don't need to touch them. Ragdoll physics as well. I haven't really touched these. There's the web sling thing, which like lets you fly around the map and boom. But honestly, I don't actually touch these at all. Now for a brief mention when it comes to mods, if you haven't actually installed mods at all and you're on PC, you want to go to the Evolution Discord server, go to ST script mods, and then at the very top of that channel, it tells you how to install Melon Loader and do that whole process to get it into the game. Basically all the instructions, everything you need is here. From there, if you go all the way to the bottom, the current version of RowMod that you need to use is 2.0.8. If it's anything earlier than that, it can cause crashes and some other issues, so definitely be careful. And if you're wondering, you press Ctrl and N to bring up the menu, and you'll notice at the top it says 2.0.8. And then within here, you've also got a bunch of different settings that you can adjust. Actually, in my case, I never really touch a lot of this stuff. I use it for like the bike materials, like I've got a custom frame and a few things like that. Also character related stuff. Otherwise, you don't really need to do a lot in this. You can play around with other things as well. Actually, I'll add a little bit. When you put in RowMod, sometimes it can like change the seat a little bit. Use this seat tilt option here. That should get it flat again. Seat height. Bar rotation, I've never really had to change. Peg length I did make a little bit longer once, but now it's back to the default. Just play around with it and see what works. Actually, right now the biggest thing with the RowMod is the ability to do a trick bag and like replace tricks with other tricks. You can either deactivate tricks you don't want, or you can replace them with something else. So as an example, this one right here used to be a one-hander. Now I've changed it to T-bug left, which also goes alongside the diagonal. I always had trouble with diagonals for some reason, and I ended up occasionally doing one-handers by mistake. So now, by doing this, it's probably going to be embarrassing if I don't get it right. But just to show on the right stick, all I have to do is left now instead of the diagonal. You will need to rotate the stick to do the fully tweaked version. But yeah, now T-bugs are way easier to do. At least for me. I don't know if anybody else had that problem. Ah, yeah. I replaced the Suicide No-Hander with a turn down as well. Similar issue. I always had problems getting it to activate properly, so setting it to down actually makes it way easier. And it's a trick I use way more than the Suicide No-Hander. I'll just try and blast off something. Yeah, nice and easy. It may also be worth doing it with some of these more complicated tricks that are they at the bottom or at the top? I think they're at the top. These LBRT tricks, like the Twix and some more common ones, you may actually want to just change those to replace some of the more basic tricks so you can do them a bit easier. Yeah, one more minor thing which I'm not sure everybody's aware of. Hang fives are in the game. You press LB, right stick up, and there you go. There's also a pedal hang five as well, which I know you may have a use for. Okay, I was going to try to do a T-box stall, but it wasn't working well. Can't really think of anything else to bring up right now. If you do have any other questions, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer everything. I've noticed I've been getting quite a lot of comments overall, and YouTube doesn't do a very good job of actually informing me about them. So if I do miss it, maybe just ask again. I'll try and get around to everything as much as I can. When it comes to some of the modding issues, you want to go to the Volution Discord. They'll help you out for the most part, because I know some people just struggle getting that stuff to work, even with the instructions there. Aside from that though, not really much else to say. I plan on doing more videos on all the new sections that are in the game. Like, I want to do a proper video on this, trying to find some new lines around the park. There's the T-bogs working, and the turndowns. Yeah, the trick bag is a big addition. It's not an official thing in the game, so Xbox players will kind of be... Well, hopefully the diagonals work pretty good for you. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover for this video. May just screw around a little bit. What happened? Wait. Let's see what happened at the time of death. Nope, still going. But we don't... what? Okay, so this may be the game just forcing me to quit. So we'll leave it there, I think. Plenty more to come. I'll see you in the next video.
Yo guys, what's up? We're back in BMX Streets today, and I'm going to be going over my settings fairly quickly, and then I was going to give you guys some tips and tricks in BMX Streets. For some of you that are maybe newer to the game on PC and console, I've seen since this game has come out on console, or at least on Xbox, they're trying to get the game on PlayStation sometime in November, but yeah, I thought we would go over my settings if, you know, the game's feeling kind of weird, or maybe you want the game to look like how it does for me. You want to see what it's like to play the game, how I play, whatever reason you might want to see my settings. Yeah, we're gonna go over all of them. So yeah, we're gonna open our master panel, get into all the settings, and then after we get through that, yeah, we'll definitely get some like tricks and tips for this game, because there is quite a few game-changing tips I have later on. If you're new to the game, if you've been a player, you probably know these things, but you also might not know these things, like how to do that right there. Let's open our master panel here. Starts off with audio, UI, menu render. Like, these are all things that you can tinker with yourself. I play at 4K, high quality. There is also ultra, but I do high because I get like an extra, like sometimes 40 to 50 FPS depending on the map, right? So when I'm playing this game on ultra at 4K, I get like 110, 115 FPS, and on high, which looks equally as good to me, I get like 140 to 150. A little bit of DLSS going on here, some post effects on, chromatic aberration off, motion blur off, vignette off, depth of field off, widescreen. This is a really strange thing. I mean, it's kind of cool that it's in here, like if you wanted to get some like cinematic clips, and you can also do this on console. I was really shocked. I actually saw this setting on my Xbox when I was changing all the settings on my Xbox version. So yeah, it's pretty interesting that they've got that setting on there. I've never really seen that before in a game, so yeah, that's pretty cool. For my slow motion, I like it on toggle. I turn the effects off and I have it on 0.5. I have it on toggle just because even when it's on the timer, I still always toggle it on and off, because usually if I'm using the slow motion, it's only for like a split second, either in a replay, or sometimes if I'm trying to get something really difficult, it can be handy to practice the trick with the slow motion. And on to the physics here. So my gravity is at 1.9. This is a little bit heavier than the standard default gravity. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I might bump it up to 2, but for most things, I'm liking 1.9. My flip axis is local. There's also tangent, but I definitely prefer local. If you want the best looking flares, you have to put it on tangent, but that's about the only thing I'd prefer in tangent. For everything else, gameplay wise, I like local flip axis. I found while using tangent, there seemed to be like more rotation assist. Even though I have rotation assist turned off, there seemed to be more assisting going on in tangent, which was really messing me up for spinning into grinds and stuff like that. And that's primarily what I do a lot in this game. I like to ride everything. I like doing big airs and transfers and hitting the dirt jumps a little bit. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'm just doing manuals and grind combos. And for me, local is just way better feeling for that. Flip multiplier is on 1, spin is on 1.2. I increased the spin multiplier just with the heavier gravity. It just makes it easier to get my rotations around. Jump multiplier is at 1.1, just raised up a little bit since the gravity is a bit heavier. Pump multiplier I have at 1.1. We will come back to pumping in the tips and tricks section of the video. It might make a bit more sense why I have it increased just a little bit. For manuals, I use the auto mode. I don't have manual modes enabled. I really don't like the way it feels. I don't know, it just didn't really feel that intuitive to me on balancing. In the 1.0 release of BMX Streets, there was no auto mode for the manuals, and they had like a really weighty feel, and it really felt like you were able to like balance, where this just doesn't really give me that same feel. Maybe it'll get changed or updated, but anytime I've tried this, I just don't really like it. My skill is set to 69. This setting does absolutely nothing. Right, we'll set it down to 0 real quick. 0 skill. We'll ride around. I have not noticed any sort of difference with this. I remember when it first got added, it was definitely hinted that it was just kind of a meme setting that MASH implemented. If you're familiar with MASH games, this is just his kind of humor, really. So, pretty sure skill does absolutely nothing. I've seen people try and theorize what it does or potentially does. I can tell you right now, after playing the game a lot since that has been added, there is nothing it does. There's definitely been a handful of people that have been pretty confused by that setting, because I mean, you would think it does something because everything else in the settings does something, but yeah, it literally does nothing. So you can set that to whatever you want. Yeah, nothing becomes more difficult or less difficult, no matter what the value of that number is. So vert assist, we have rotation assist off and correction strength set to 5. That's just the default. I was actually told in my last video that if I turn the correction strength down to 0, wall rides work better, but I don't know. I like the way transition feels at 5, so I'll just keep it there. Grind assist is turned off. I initially turned grind assist off because the grind assist was kind of bugged out for a couple weeks. I don't know, this is a handful of months ago now, so I just got used to playing without grind assist. Definitely just gives you a bit more freedom with grinds and also not landing in grinds, and we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that in the tips and tricks section. But yeah, grind assist is turned off. I ride goofy stance, tricking always fires off. Master speeds at 1.2. Gotta have the tricks a little bit faster with the increased gravity. Key sliders are on. Here are my camera settings. 80 FOV, 0 fisheye, 2 distance, -0.1. You guys see it. Posture. I just have my character forward a bit, I guess. Ragdoll physics. I just have the web sling with hands. This control torque thing. I don't really know what that does, to be completely honest. Doesn't really have anything to do with riding the bike, so I don't care too much. So those are all the in-game settings. The only other thing I can pull up is the row mod, and the only thing I use this for is custom characters, which is kind of broken right now. We have the custom bike textures. As you can see, I have Devin's Cult Biggie frame. But the thing I love about row mod is you can actually rebind what input does what trick, and the only trick I have rebind is the helicopters. And yeah, and now my helicopter is down with right bumper and left trigger. The default helicopter inputs just make no sense to me. And yeah, that's it. I don't do anything physics wise in here. Sometimes I'll like increase the nose mani a little bit, for the mainies, get them a little bit more steep. But yeah, I mean, this is all default. All right. Okay. Whoa. All right. On to the tips and tricks section. So there's a couple things I get asked about a lot when it comes to how to do stuff in this game. Let's say number one is tire rides. And this is going to bring us back to why I have grind assist turned off. Now, you can actually do tire rides with grind assist on. However, the only way I've been able to do it is if you ride straight on to a rail, like what I just tried to do right there. With grind assist on, I have had it happen where if you ride straight on to a rail, you can actually get into a tire ride like that. I have grind assist off because sometimes you can't always get into a tire ride straight on. And also in real life, I am terrified to do tire rides straight on. I've only ever done tire rides hopping on from the side of a rail. If I had grind assist on, every time I try to hop at this rail, it would just pull me into a double peg. But since we have grind assist off, it is actually possible to get over the rail to maybe do like an over pegs. But it's also possible to do a tire ride from the side. It sucks. It's hard. I don't want to have to do that. I wish that we just had, you know, like hold both triggers and hop into a tire ride like we had previously in Pipe and also in the 1.0 version of Streets. But we don't have that right now. We don't have an overgrind input. So if you're trying to get overgrinds consistently, you really just have to get good at playing with no grind assist. And also if you want to do tire rides, like I'm going to try and do a tire ride from the side. I will try to bar tire ride. It's hard. It's really difficult. You have to perfectly line it up. Yeah, we got into it for a second. Let's actually try and get something though, right? Like boom, bar tire ride. You crank flip off there. Yeah. So it's necessary that you turn grind assist off if you want to be able to ride on rails like how I just did. If you have grind assist on, you just can't ride the rail like that. At least currently, until they put some sort of input in to just do tire rides like we once had. The next thing I get asked about a lot is coping stalls. What you want to do if you want to, let's say, do a double peg on a quarter like this, is as you're approaching the quarter pipe, you need to hold the right bumper down as you hop. I'll just hit this without holding it, right? That's all that happens. I'm going to hold the right bumper as I hop now. Boom. Up into a double peg. Now, I wish it was as easy as just holding the bumper down and hopping, like I just said. But that's kind of only half the battle when it comes to coping stalls. You do have to get the right timing, because sometimes you'll fly out like that. Other times, if you go too high, you'll also just air the quarter pipe. So there's a bit of timing to be learned. Start hopping at the quarter pipe while holding the right bumper, and you'll just kind of get used to it where you need to hop, and it will become easier. I don't want to say it ever becomes easy, because I don't think it really does. It's kind of like BMX in real life, right? Once you kind of learn the trick, you don't really have to think about it too much, and you'll just start falling into place where you want. So yeah, I'll see if I can get something here, maybe like a 270 bar to Smith, kind of like a 180 the way I'm approaching it. But yeah, it's tough. You guys can see right here, like I've got 1,000 hours in the game, and I've done this trick specifically probably like over 100 times, and I still struggle super hard to get into it. I'm hopping way too early here. That's mainly what's happening. That's why I'm coming out on the deck. Yeah, I'm just hopping too early. It's close. It was like too late. It's you just have to hop in like the perfect spot. Yeah, like you guys are gonna see, like it's tough. I mean, it might be easier with grind assist on. I'm really not sure. There it is. Yeah, so some tricks are difficult, but it's weird because it's like, you know, that was pretty hard. That took quite a few attempts. But then sometimes, like after you do it, then like it's just like locked in your brain, and then see, we almost got it there first try. And you just kind of build up muscle memory for these sorts of tricks. But yeah, that's coping. You just have to hold the right bumper and, you know, figure out the timing. That's really all there is to it. A lot of getting good at this game is just practice. With any of these games where they're a little bit more on the simulator side, this game kind of gives you the option to set it up to be a lot more simulator-like than arcade, right? You can turn most of the assisting off. So we have a lot of ways to do bunny hops in this game. We can click in the right stick, and that'll give us a small hop. We can pull down on the right stick and flick up. That'll give us a normal bunny hop. Now you might be thinking, okay, great, there's 2 bunny hops. No. Now we're going to bring in pumping into our bunny hops. So on the left stick, if we pull down and flick up, you kind of shift your weight up and down. And that's because, you know, that's how you pump quarter pipes. You shift your weight up and down, and you pump the transition. But we can also use this in bunny hops. We can bunny hop with clicking in our right stick. We can pump hop by pulling down with the left stick and pushing up as we bunny hop by clicking the left stick. Then we can bunny hop with the right stick. Then we can pump hop with the right stick. And then there's also pumping down as you hop, which can get you even smaller hops. So if I pump down while hopping by clicking in the right stick, you can see you can get like these really tiny bunny hops. And you can do the same thing with a normal bunny hop. Just pull down on the left stick as you're hopping. Oh, I did that wrong. Like this. So yeah, you really have, let's see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have about 5 different bunny hops, maybe like 5 or 6. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to learn how to do bunny hops in this game. I think for the most part, at least for myself, I almost exclusively just use the normal hop, the mini hop by clicking in the right stick, and the pump hop. Very rarely do I do the pump and the mini hop to get like these little guys. But if you're just trying to add some variations, maybe even to like your half cabs or whatever it is, or just like your 180s before you do something, like you have a lot of options with the way you do bunny hops. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk about the pumping in this game after I get up here. Okay, all right. So in my settings, you guys would have seen that my pumping is set to 1.1, and I don't actually have that set to that for riding ramps. 1.0 pumping setting is totally fine and more than enough, especially if you increase your gravity. But I have it set to 1.1 to just make it a little bit stronger for pumping on flat ground. So I'll just have like a little bit of speed here, right? We'll start pumping and turning, and you can see you can actually do the pumping input on flat ground and pick up speed. Now, if you're filming and you want all your lines to be really clean and not include any pedaling in between tricks like you would see professional riders do in real life, right? Like it's, especially if you're riding a bowl or something, like it's kind of a no-no to be pedaling around in there. It'd be like if you were riding a skateboard and you were riding a bowl and then you started pushing in the bottom. Like it's just, it's not aesthetically pleasing to watch someone have to do that. Sometimes it's necessary, but yeah, learning to pump in this game is really important for, you know, saving and recovering your speed. And that goes for flat ground as well. And so I rarely ever use the pumping going straight on flat ground, but something I do use it actually quite a bit for is when I'm riding fakie. You can also do this while you ride backwards. It looks kind of silly because your character is just, you know, squatting up and down repetitively. But if you're just in a line and doing it really quick, then it can actually look pretty natural in some cases. And so to give an example of where I might use this, is like this deck right here. Like if I was to like fly out on top and I lost my speed and I want to like air to flat or half cab to flat, I can do a couple quick little pumps right here to just get the speed I need to get out to where I want to. Or like, let's say I, you know, did a grind 180 or something like this and I don't have that much speed and I want to half cab onto the ledge. You can just pump a little bit on flat ground to get the speed you need to make it to the ledge. The only other thing I can think of that I've been getting asked about is if we open up my replay, some people have been curious about what settings I use for my fisheye filming, I set the FOV all the way up to 126, sometimes 128. Just, I don't know. I tend to either do one of these two, but primarily 126, and then I'll put the fisheye up to around 65%, and then sometimes I'll add some vignette to try and hide the weird, like, glitchy. You guys look in the corners of the screen, you see like all that glitchy stuff. Sometimes I'll add vignette to try and hide it a little bit, but it doesn't bother me too much. Oh god, what is happening? And Buddy swing out of here. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. So, I mean, hopefully this video is valuable for some of you guys. Maybe you weren't too stoked on the way things were feeling, and you're looking for settings to maybe have a bit of a different gaming experience in BMX Streets. It's pretty sick that we have all these settings to really tweak the gameplay to your liking, whether that's a little bit more arcadey, a little bit more realistic. I guess that's it. I'm just gonna be swinging through the forest here, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. Bye bye. We are back in BMX Streets today, and basically ever since I've started uploading videos on this, I don't think I've actually posted a video without getting comments asking what my settings are in game. Now I'm gonna go over all the settings, all the mods that I use, where you can find that kind of stuff, the controllers I use, and yeah, just kind of give you guys an idea of what all I play on. Let's just get a quick little line through this park here, up until I fall, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and go through some settings here. I feel like maybe some people think I've got some sort of hidden settings. I mean, the only settings I could really see wanting to know are like the camera settings, if you like the way my game looks with my camera. But yeah, I don't know. I'll show you guys everything. And when it comes to mods, I don't really use too many mods. Really, the only mod I use is the part tweaker mod, just so I can have I mean, really it's just for the longer pegs, but I mean, I do have my my seat cranked up quite a bit. But yeah, anytime here we're gonna fall, and we'll get into the settings here. Let's just send it on a huge wall right here. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's get up here. We'll go with the in-game settings first. Open up our settings here. I run basically everything on Ultra, and then I turn everything below anti-aliasing off. The in-game anti-aliasing just makes it look really blurry, so I don't use that. Dynamic resolution, I don't need to use that because I get pretty good FPS, but if you are getting a low FPS, you could turn that on and use Fidelity X or DLSS if you're on an NVIDIA card. Screen space reflection, I mean, look at, like, do you guys see a difference with this on and off? I don't see a difference. Chromatic